Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to see you here. I know I'd have the hangover day, which is always fun. I appreciate, first off, thank you so much for having me back. I don't know, for those of you who might have caught me on the first time I ever presented here, I actually snuck on stage. I took someone else's session. I then spent the rest of GrrCON hiding from Chris because I thought he was going to kill me. But thankfully, when he did finally corner me, he went, "Hey, who are you and why am I getting feedback on you? You're not even on my list." And it turns out he was happy enough to continue to invite me back, and even to this point onto the main stage. So I'm very honored by that. Actually, I put it akin to, it was like breaking into someone else's house, eating their dinner, and then getting invited back for dinner every year afterwards. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming out this morning. What I want to share with you, I hope we'll have some fun with. I'm not going to get too heavy, too deep. It's way too early in the morning, although I'm probably going to touch on some pretty intense subjects. Feel free to have, conversations and chats afterwards. We're all, more or less in the security industry, interested in the security industry, which is a very interesting one because we tend to be the, paranoid, scared, frightened, kind of group. Always looking for that next solution and then suddenly discovering that we have to do it again. And it kind of reminded me of my, one of my favorite books, actually. So I'm going to tell you up front that, a lot of what I've learned about security and networking computers really came from a book that actually theoretically has nothing to do with it, but is probably more applicable than you think. How many people here have read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Excellent. For those of you who haven't, you really need to run out and read it. Don't go after just the movie. You'll be missing far too much. So I'm going to talk about, what towels we're going to need moving forward. But before we get into that, I thought maybe we'll do a little bit of I always like to actually start sessions with some kind of, jargon. Let's take some jargon out and make sure that we're all talking the same language. Because you guys notice, particularly in IT security, we have a lot of jargon and terms and things we use that actually mean different things to us than, even say the rest of the world. So I thought I'd just throw up a few terms, make sure we're talking all the same language, we understand we're on the same page here. So has everybody heard the term 24/7? 24/7? So in the security world, essentially what that means, that's really the window of time in which your systems are potentially the most vulnerable. Something to keep an eye on. Everybody familiar with a backdoor? You heard of a backdoor? That's really what we refer to as the front door. Client server. Is anybody familiar with the client server model? Understand it? You know it? You've worked with it? It's important to understand that piece because there'll be a lot of conversation around that. By the way, that's two types of easily hacked computers. Nail it down to what it specifically is. Cybercrime. Does everybody know what cybercrime is? It's actually just crime. Whether you rob me with a gun or a computer, you're a thief, it's crime. I guess it sounds cooler though, only cyber. We always got to add the word cyber. By the way, I'm much older than I look, thankfully, because people always say, really? But when I, started getting on the internet, mostly on IRC, and for those of you who don't know what IRC is, that was like Facebook before we had Facebook, but very text-based, not as pretty as what you see now. And on that world, the term cyber meant something else entirely. Those of you who are chuckling know exactly what I mean. That's why every time I hear somebody use the word cyber, it's like, you said cyber. You ever get that message? Hey, want a cyber? Didn't mean what it means today. At least to me. Identity theft. Has anybody here been a victim of identity theft? Yeah, it's a nasty thing. That's actually the transfer of your personally identifying information from corporations that want to exploit it to hackers and attackers that want to exploit it. Any people here use a smartphone? You heard of those things? These are tiny pocket-sized computers designed to store vast amounts of sensitive data. So you can store it in the back seats of taxi cabs, in the bars, scattered around. You find them everywhere. OS hardening or operating system hardening. Does anybody ever go through that process? You're always hardening your operating system. Hey, I got to put something online. We're going to harden it. You guys do that? Good security practice, right? It's excellent practice. It's actually the attempt to secure your operating system against the next attack by patching it for the last one. It's been working great for us so far, right? Oh, I love this one. Cloud. Everybody knows what the cloud is, right? We should have all seen this by now. There is no cloud. Just computers attached to the network. Come on, who are we kidding? But of course, that's the popular conversation these days. Everybody wants to, talk about the cloud. Every customer I go see, oh, the cloud. By the way, that's me. I actually found the cloud. It's actually in St. John's, Newfoundland, at the end of Canada. I was told I had to go out and see the very end because you get to look out over the vast, I'm at the end of Canada and we get to look out over the vast, ocean ahead of me. So I drove up to the very edge of Canada and that's what I saw. I was like, oh, there's the cloud. I couldn't believe they were like, oh, you really got to see this. And this is me searching furiously for security issues in the cloud. Because customers are always asking, hey, what can we do to secure the cloud? And so I'm constantly putting forward my awesome design for security in the cloud. It's been working really well. It's exactly what the customers are asking for. I want to do this. I want to be secure, and I don't want the users or anyone to know, and there has to be zero latency in any change in the application. No problem. That's easy to do. We do that all the time. But that's why I got into this, right? Because all the untold riches, all the money I'm going to make doing this. Ha, ha, ha. When I started in this industry 20 years ago, believe it or not, it wasn't a whole lot of money. Matter of fact, at the time, I used to have to justify why people had to do security at all. Most people did what I referred to as a security model known as the sacrificial lamb. It's pre-DMZ. It's when they took a server and they just put it outside the infrastructure and went, well, whatever happens, happens. I'm not kidding. That was really a security strategy for us. Kind of a dumb one, of course, now, because you get popped like that. But when you look at, a history of computers, actually, if you go back far enough, really where I started with computers, my first real computer was something called the TI-99-4A. Does anybody remember the TI-99? I loved that. I mean, I had like the TRS-80 before that, but it was kind of like through the school. This was my first personal computer I had in my house. I got to play with. And unfortunately, while I went out searching for a picture of this old computer, I couldn't even find it, actually. My mom, I think she threw it out. I actually had it kept at home for a while, but I couldn't find it. But I went online and I searched out pictures. While I was searching for pictures, I discovered something very frightening that actually really horrified me, actually. And it turns out the spokesperson for the TI-99-4A was this guy. Thank you very much, Bill Cosby, for destroying yet another childhood memory, you asshole. So I apologize for putting it up and associate anything with that. But back then, of course, and moving forward, it was really all about discovery. Especially when I first got online and started playing with the internet. It was a really, really interesting experience because it really felt like there was no limits. I could literally do anything. Well, to be clear, there were a few limits. This is about how nice our browser looked. We used to actually have to install our own TCP stack. So I built one of my first websites. I just went to a local ISP. Turns out I was one of the first customers that ever walked in and went, yeah, where's my access? And went home and the guy never saw me. And everybody else would always bring in their computer. We'd have to install it because Windows didn't come with any kind of TCP IP stack. You actually had to install one. But I went off. I was a big Unix head. I wasn't actually a big fan of Windows. I didn't understand it. Okay, cancel. What the hell's all that crap? If I can't do it in a one-line command, I must be doing something wrong. So I set up a little website through this. And it turns out he let me run, CGI bin, Perl scripts. I was really big into Perl scripting at the time. So, of course, not really knowing what to do, I just put together a little Perl script that, hi, this is me, this is my website. And then in it I put, a little link that says, but you know what, you don't really care about me. What you're looking for is dirty pictures. And there was a link there that said, click here for dirty pictures. Now, when you click that link, I didn't actually give you dirty pictures. What I did do was spin off a little Perl script that ran a very popular command back in the 90s, early to mid-90s. It was a little program called Finger. Does anybody remember Finger? Finger was a cool program. It's as bad as it sounds. And what Finger would do was actually connect to the remote IP and pull back information. And back then, we would actually send back the information, like email, the name, who was logged in, all that kind of stuff. We thought that was a great idea at the time. Isn't that great? You just finger someone and find out who they were. So with Finger, if it could parse an email address out of it, it would create a form email that would say, haha, caught you looking at dirty pictures. Blah, 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 just some stupid statement. I thought, oh, that's funny. And it fired it directly at them. Now, what I didn't think about is when the CGI script kicked off, it kicked off under my user ID. So when it sent the email, it sent it under my email. Not a big deal, I thought. Until, one day I go to check my email and there's like, 5 emails in there from people who reply back going, I was not looking for dirty pictures. Ah. And I remember one of them was actually a minister from southern U.S. who was very adamant there was some kind of mistake. And there was no way he was looking for dirty pictures and I had sent this email in error, which is entirely possible. But I just replied back and went, no, there was a link that said click here for dirty pictures, and you did. That's the only way the script runs. It's a computer. It only does what it's told. Anyway, the next day I log in, and there's now 20 messages coming back my way. I'm like, that's interesting. Just kind of delete them and ignore them at that point. Within a couple of days, there was hundreds of emails waiting for me. And this escalated to the point where I could not download all my emails because it was just dial-up back then. And then all of a sudden, my ISP goes offline. And I'm like, oh boy. I wonder what happened here. And of course, the guy that owns the place is frantically trying to call me. I'm frantically trying not to answer the phone going, oh man, I'm in trouble. I don't know what happened, but I think something bad went down. He did finally get a hold of me, asked me to come in. I had to sheepishly go in because I wanted to recover my account. And it turns out I got indexed by the Yahoo top 100, funny websites, and I made it in the top 10. And the traffic that came in, it turns in they were just the backbone off the main office. Not only had the traffic coming in wiped out his site, but we took out the main site in Ottawa with so much traffic. I thought, oh man, I'm going to be done for. But you know what he said? He was, hey, do you think you could do that again? And next thing I knew, I found myself working in an ISP. Nothing I ever intended on doing. This was purely just for fun. But lo and behold, here I was working for an ISP. And I was setting up all this stuff for him. I was setting up the servers, building DNS servers. But I was a consultant. Really, does everybody know what a consultant really is? It's the person you pay to read the manual. That's it. I used to boggle my mind. I'm like, well, I'll do it for this much money. And they're like, great, you know how to do that? I'm like, sure. Type this command. Hey, it was good business. It was easy, and I could actually work from home, which was kind of cool at the time. I was just out of university, so really my concern was more about what parties I could get to, so that was kind of nice. But then one day, I'm sitting at home, and the owner of the business calls me. He goes, hey, the site in Peterborough went down for email. Nobody can get their email. And I go and I check it, and I try to telnet into the server. That's how long ago it was. I'm like, geez, I can't log into the server. What's going on? I was very pissed off because I had to actually get into a vehicle and drive to the location. And I get there, and I look at the server, and I realize, oh my God, something's happening. They've changed everything. They changed it back. How could this happen? Somebody had logged in, and they were distributing pirated software through my mail server, and it just swamped the thing with all outside data. It took the email down. By the way, this is back in the days when people go, hey, the email server's down, and then you just wander off and do something else. It'll come back eventually. Now it's like, the email's down. Oh my God, pagers go off, people freak out. So I'm dicking around with this thing going, what the heck happened? And I'm puzzling over it. It looks like somebody took over my machine, and I don't understand how it's possible because I had a password. What could have possibly happened? So I rebuild the machine, I put it online, I'm like, okay, well, it's fixed now, and I'll change the password. I go home. 2 days later, same thing happens again on another server. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? So I go online, actually, to IRC and start talking to other friends. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And after some discussions, these people inform me about this, really not really a technology, but really this approach of blocking things with, what they called a firewall. Like a firewall. What an interesting concept. Because you have to remember, back then, the fact that we got 2 machines to just talk to each other was amazing. The concept that I would put something in the way that would block that sounded ridiculous. Jesus, you just got the thing working. Why would you block it? Stuff didn't work as well as we thought back then. There was a lot of kludging and messing around. But I'm like, no, you know what? We've got 2 open access. I'm going to put this in here, and that'll solve the problem. And then a week later, I get the phone call. Hey, we just lost another server. I'm like, damn it, what's going on? So I do some more research. I actually built what I realize now was, a honeypot, which is essentially a way for me to capture the data, review it later, and look at what they're doing. And it's really how I started to figure out, hey, these are how these attacks work. Wow. I started looking at a whole different level. And that's when I figured out, you know what? The problem is, though, even though we put in a firewall, there's still too much open access. We need some authentication so that our users are only accessing certain things, and we can block it from the rest of the internet. And then, of course, you know, a little while later, something else gets popped again. The boss is like, what's going on here? I'm like, oh, you know what? We need to protect some more stuff. We need to build some more segmentation in the environment. And then, of course, things still get popped. So then I get some vulnerability assessment tools from some friends. We start talking about some scripts and some things we're building and working on. And I run the scan. I realize, oh my God, the routers and switches are actually all sitting at the default passwords. What are we thinking? I'm going to have to change all those. And by the way, I'm going to run constant scanning now because as we bring new systems online, I want to make sure that those don't, you know, get too out of whack. And then, you know, I started to have to build in some policy management tools because I'm really managing all over, you know, southern Ontario, trying to fill in all the pieces. So I built some policy management tools. Then, of course, some customer gets a virus, and because he got a virus connected to the internet through our service, it's clearly our fault. So we start putting in some antivirus protection for customers. And then all of a sudden, you know, I have to put in more IDS components. And then, oh, the content filtering was fun. I normally worked in the back, you know, on the servers and stuff. But if there was overflow on the phone calls, I would, you know, obviously pick up and help the front-end team for any support calls. And one particularly busy day, a call got through, which in hindsight probably shouldn't have come to me. It was a bad scene, but it was actually from the principal of one of the schools. My company had won the account to deliver internet services for all the school region in our area. And it was one of the principals who called me and went, yes, the children at school can see pornography on the internet. To which I said, no kidding, I think that's why we sell half of our connections. What's your point? Completely the wrong thing to say, so then I'm finding myself how to build content filters out and segment out those people, protect them from seeing things. And then somebody loses a laptop, so we have to start looking at encryption to protect any data that's going out there. And then we start to realize, hey, these firewalls aren't, you know, doing all we need, so we start to build some application layer firewalls. And then I start, you know, building a more better authentication, certificate-based authentication. Start to do more analyzing, more reporting, and building it all up. And when I get all this stuff done, the boss looks at me and goes, what are you doing? Are you insane? We're an access company and you're building all this crap in here. What are you doing? I said, but you asked me to. And what he asked me to do was basically everything. Do you ever find that happens in security? We're the catch-all. Oh, if we don't know what else to do with it, it's probably a security issue. Do something about it. And then when you do something about it, they're like, what are you doing? It's a really tough industry. Those who haven't in it. So by the way, for those of you who, you know, are dealing with a security administrator in your office, go over and give them a bit of a hug. Just let them know, hey, I'm thinking of you. I know the pain you're going through. But it was a great learning experience. I took that with me, and from that, I learned how to hack a bunch of stuff. Chiefly for copy. I'm not going to claim to be any, you know, great super hacker kind of guy. I actually dug up through an old backup. I managed to find some old attacks. I don't know if you can read these. Some of you might recognize some of these. It's actually basically how I learned to code a lot of things, by looking at this code, playing with it. By the way, back then, do you know what responsible disclosure was? If we knew about a vulnerability, somebody would write up the source code for whatever the attack was, and then alter it in such a way that if you didn't know how to understand the code, you wouldn't really be able to compile and run it. That was responsible disclosure. Inevitably, somebody would fix it and release it anyway. And I built all kinds of tools myself. These are actually my client server, just a very simple Perl thing. When I get onto a machine, I could have it send messages over whatever port I want, just send and receive stuff. And then I ran into SPAC. It's gone now, but anybody remember SPAC or ever played with it? It's a packet creator tool. Ran beautifully on Solaris. I was a huge Solaris fan. I could make IP, make TCP. So then I learned how to just make my own packets at a network level. Had a blast playing with this. But you know what I had best of all? Because of where I worked, I had reverse DNS lookup control for entire net blocks. Who here understands the significance of what that means? For the rest of you, it means basically I could reply with any IP and fool you into thinking I was whoever I wanted. I could come in as a .gov, as CNN.com. Actually, I don't even think CNN was online at the time. As pretty much anything I can. So we played war games back then, but we didn't do it like you guys do it today. I watch all these systems set up and you guys playing the little games online and checking. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. You know how we used to do it? We used to sit in an IRC channel and we used to pop real servers and we'd check them online to see who could win what. And I remember winning a big hacker attack thing, again, the 90s. back when the worst you got was a job offer. Now you go to jail. But I managed to take out, I think it was some in the neighborhood of 70 plus domains in a matter of minutes. Now I didn't actually take out 70 plus web servers. I mucked with the DNS server, poisoned the cache, and had the reverse, the call actually go to a simple web page I'd set up that said, haha, hacked by me. And as these people check the website, they're like, oh my god, it's hacked, it's hacked, it's hacked, it's hacked. He did them all. It's record time. They thought I was a huge, amazing, powerful hero. In reality, I just had control over DNS. So I could tell the internet whatever I wanted. By the way, that stuff doesn't work anymore. We figured out that maybe we shouldn't trust DNS as much. People used to actually support their rlogin and remote commands just based on a reverse lookup. If the domain matched mine, hey, come on in. It was so easy to wander into people's systems. Matter of fact, I'll give you an example where reverse DNS is very powerful. And it's actually something I ran into when I was online. This is going way back. It doesn't apply anymore. So would you like to see an attack, an example of an attack that's predicated on you having security? So I want you to think about this for a second. The only way this attack works is if you have security. If you didn't have security, this attack wouldn't work. Isn't that cool? Very, very simple process. So the idea behind it is that you have to have reverse lookup control of a DNS server. Today, that's a little harder to do. Back then, I had entire net blocks I could do it with. So did lots of other people. And truth be told, a lot of people you could just hack your own root DNS server if you wanted. These things were wide open. I found one from Sprint back in the day. They left the print services running on a Solaris machine. I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, but print service is basically a free-for-all. Hey, please print this piece of code for me, and it would just blah. Here's my shell, go crazy. Hey, I love Solaris. It's a great tool. So anyway, you need your own DNS control because you're going to set up some very specific records. And then you're going to go after your target, and you're going to send a bunch of attack-looking packets. You want these packets to be seen and probably blocked because they got security in there. Hopefully an IDS of some type. And I want them to notice it because it's going to pick up a very specific source destination, source IP that's coming into the environment. And when that information is collected, it goes typically to your IDS reporter. And your IDS, you obviously needs to report to this, is going to query its local DNS server and go, hey, who's this IP? We want to get some information about this for the report. And that DNS server is going to go, okay, I'm going to go look out on the internet and see who owns this. And what are they going to do? They're going to talk to my compromised DNS server, which is going to send back a little bit of information and a little something extra along with it. This is a homage to Randall Schwartz in the Dancing Dinosaurs. Does anybody remember the Barney the Purple Dancing Dinosaur? So this was now I don't know if it was the first time cross-site scripting was done, but it was the first time I saw it. And it was a gentleman I met through IRC who actually was very big in the Perl community, who'd figured out this whole cross-site scripting thing, and he would go around wherever he found a website that could be victimized by this, which was pretty much all of them. He would embed Barney the Purple Dancing Dinosaur on their webpage. So every time I go to it and I see a little dinosaur, I'm like, that's funny, Randall was there. But anyway, I could send a little bit of cross-site scripting, a little bit of HTML code, and of course, what did 99.999% of all IDS systems report in? HTML. And so the administrator would come in the morning and say, hey, let's see what happened last night. Pull up their little, web report and get something a little bit extra. Now, in terms of what this attack actually could accomplish, especially back then, was really not much. I might be able to steal a cookie and do some shopping on, eBay if I caught it in time, but it wasn't really like a huge attack. It didn't really give me direct access to the internet. But what the person who used this for did, it was actually to get revenge back on a former employer, was to actually just insert a very simple piece of HTML code that caused the web page to pop up whenever they open their security policy that says, haha, I've hacked you, you're screwed. Now imagine you come into work in the morning, you open up your reporting system for security, and it proceeds to tell you, haha, I hacked you. What do? What would you do? Most people panicked. I had one guy go, I just quit. And just drop everything. I'm out of here. I give up. They shut down that business while we turned everything off to try to figure out what happened. And the reason I never forgot this story is it took us a while, but once we figured out what happened, we went, wow. We actually went back to the customer and went, there's nothing wrong here. There's actually nothing in here. But the attack still worked in the sense that the humans went, oh my God. right? All you had to do was say the right thing to the right person, and off you go. So you always find me around, happy to share these stories, share these thoughts, comments. I'm actually always willing to help if you look for me. For example, this one woman who is a little delusional about who she is in the world and watches too much TV was looking for something that's going to make her boyfriend's eyes pop out of his head. It was around Valentine's Day, to which I suggested sudden decompression in an airtight container. I should just rate her out, and I don't know, I feel I'm pretty helpful. I even help, technically, my competitors. For example, when my friends at Cisco actually announced, hey, what do you see as the future of security threats to Twitter? I said, they try to use your product to protect it. I'm kidding, it's fun, we're all fun. And of course, because I run around saying stupid things online, I get lots of people coming back at me saying, letting me know, what are you, an idiot? Are you dummy? I'm like, and I'm okay with that, by the way. Even during this presentation afterwards, feel free to come up and challenge me. That's how we learn. It's how we get better. We should all be challenging each other all the time. However, in this day and age, I think we have to be a little bit careful about what we say online. Because if you're going to make, a silly, funny, sarcastic tweet, you might want to be careful how that goes. Now, he'll freely admit, and now, in hindsight, it was kind of a dumb tweet to make. But I'm going to argue that if we're going to hold people accountable for saying dumb things on Twitter, of which I am hugely guilty of, go through my Twitter feed, I'm saying stupid things all the time, sarcastic things all the time. I would argue, though, that if we're going to hold, for example, people like Chris accountable for every silly thing they say on Twitter, then I would like some clarification on a tweet one of your politicians made. It's a late evening with Colonel Gaddafi and his ranch in Libya. Interesting meeting with an interesting man. This was approximately a year before you bombed the crap out of him and killed him. I'm really curious on what he was doing there and why he was hanging out, and why that tweet actually got pulled later because, oh no, we're not dealing to talk to him. I'm just throwing it out there. If we're going to hold people accountable for everything on Twitter, then I think everybody should have to be held accountable for it. But we have to remember in security, though, that really the companies, the business, they're trying to build something, right? They're not actually trying to break stuff. And I have to warn you, as a security, especially a pen tester, you're not really a rock star to the business. They really actually don't like you that much. Because all you do is come in and try to break something. So actually, to echo Chris's message, I was actually really happy to hear that, because it's something I've been a huge advocate for, is stop just breaking stuff. Let's figure out how to fix it too. If you don't have a fix for it, all you are literally doing is running around smashing stuff and going, ooh, look at me. You're like a spoiled little child who kicks down every sand castle and goes, wow, look at that. We've got to start thinking about how to fix things, or at least approach people on how to fix things. And I've been a big proponent of that for a while. As a matter of fact, that's one thing that's frustrated me in a lot of the cons is, especially when we first started, it was all about stuff we broke. Nobody would ever talk about what we're fixing. And how do we make things better? And there's a lot of elements to how we make things better. So I've got a little test for you. I'm hoping the screen's a little bit washed out. I'm hoping you can see this okay. I would like you to take a look at this picture and tell me how many risks or potential risks for data loss do you see in this picture? Just yell out the number. What was that? Nope. Nope. Sorry? Nope. Wrong. Who said that? Congratulations. You got it perfectly right. The thing that loses data is off getting coffee right now and chatting with some friends by the water cooler. Devices don't lose data. People lose data. And of course, to combat that, we have all kinds of, approaches, which is, make sure your password is unmemorable in any possible way and is bizarre and huge and long so that you're guaranteed to write it down. And in general, just pack yourself up and do all the crazy stuff we say because it's for security. And we generally get treated, a little bit like idiots when it comes to that security element. And I got a perfect example. This actually goes back to, does everybody remember Windows Vista? And we all love Windows Vista. Again, I'm not much of a Windows guy, but I have to test with it for where I work. We had a Windows Vista test going on. And what was interesting about it was, it's hard to read, but I don't know if you guys remember the scene. It's this screen, it's your network setup screen. And it says you have to choose if you're at home or if you're at work or if you're in a public place. And the part I really love is at the bottom where it says, if you aren't sure, select public location. If you aren't sure where you are, that's how stupid they think you are. Well, these people probably are going to have no clue where they actually are in the world, so we better give them a tip so they're not calling support going, I don't know where I am. What do I do? What do I select? Now, to be fair to Microsoft, we're talking about, of course, customers that have web browsers that generally look like this, and then called to complain, the browser's really slow. What a crappy browser. Couldn't you have done better? And by the way, I'm not just going to pick on Microsoft. Apple's just as bad. This just happened to me recently. I got another piece of their spam email, and so there's this link to say unsubscribe. So I click on it, and after I clicked on it, I said, stop sending me your crap. Your email address subscription preference has been updated. Please allow up to 10 days for any changes to take effect. Really, Apple? Super iCloud takes 10 days to move an email address? How stupid do you think I am? That's just 10 more days of spam you're going to give me. So I probably accidentally click on it and say, let's go. But of course, we tend to have this dependency on technology and this, fruitlessness we feel like, oh my God, when something goes wrong, we're just trapped, we're stuck. And I've got a great real-world example of that. I was at RSA this year, and the RSA conference finished. And I got out, of course, I'm downtown. I got time to kill because I live East Coast. I didn't want to do the red-eye home, so I'm hanging down. So I'm like, I need a coffee. I'm going to go grab a Starbucks because I'm in San Francisco, right? You can't throw a rock without hitting a Starbucks. But the first Starbucks I walked up to has this little sign there going, I'm sorry, we're closing due to system failure. I was like, system failure. It's boiled water and ground, chopped up grounds. What system has to fail that you can't make coffee? Weird. All right, well, something went wrong here. Maybe the power went out or something. So I wandered down because there's 100 other ones. And I hit the next Starbucks. I go, sorry, we're offline there due to, some kind of problem. Tomorrow will be regular hours. So I'm like, whoa. There's some kind of massive outage at Starbucks that prevents them from making coffee? What kind of technology are we talking about here? And I'm thinking, wow, how high-tech is my coffee? And finally, I found one that was open. It says, actually, we're only accepting cash. It turns out this was the one Starbucks where the people that worked there knew how to count. That was the issue, it turns out. Their payment system went offline due to some update. Yeah, right. It was right around the time they were having a problem with an app. Go figure. And I found the only manager who went, oh, shoot, the cash machine's down. We'll have to do math and figure out how much people owe, or just give away the copies in some cases. But that's frightened me. I mean, here we are. We shut down an entire chain of coffee stuff because people can't do math anymore. Are we really getting to that point? Is that really happening to us? I guess so, because, now I have gloves that have to be connected to a computer to be updated and charged. These are actually my Bluetooth gloves. I use them for shoveling the driveway, so the microphone and the earpiece are in the thumb here, so when a call comes, I can just tap it and go, hello? Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah, I'll be right on that. And then I go right back to shoveling, right? Hey, it's Canada, right? But what's interesting is, so this will be hard to see, this is a survey taken from World Economic Forum. What's interesting is, you can't see the link in here, but they're pointing to an extreme weather event. This is the likelihood versus the impact of an event. Notice a cyber attack actually ranked higher than an extreme weather event. People are actually more frightened of and think there'll be more impact or just as much impact from a cyber attack as they will a hurricane. And at one time I would have said, well, that's silly. But here we are running around connecting systems that scare the crap out of me because we're still making the same mistakes we always made. And of course now it's going to turn into a whole big dramatic, oh my God, right? The whole Sony thing, oh, do this, don't do that, cyber attacks are coming. Now I'll be honest, if the cyber attacks stick to, just computers fighting computers, I'm okay with that. That's a whole lot better than us killing each other. Except we are hooking these systems up to things that we really shouldn't until we figure out the basics. The problem, of course, again, comes back to we want to improve all these things. We think we're so smart, but we keep repeating the same things over and over again. You guys saw the YouTube video from that research group out of, actually I think they're out of the Detroit area, that they could put a YouTube video online of them driving through like 50 green lights in a row. They figure out how to control the traffic system through the wireless. And as I read the report, you know what the most frightening thing was? I thought, ooh, this would be interesting, you know, control systems, how they do it. How they did it was open Wi-Fi and the control system still had the default password from the manual you could download from the internet. That was it. We're still making the same mistakes, but we think we're so smart, we're constantly repeating what we do, and of course just making it that much more ugly for us. Which really leads me back to, for those of you who are not familiar with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, what's really the basis behind the book was really about searching for the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And after millions of years of calculations by a computer, they finally come up with the answer. 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Which, of course, was a problem because they're like, well, what the hell does that mean? And that's when they realized, crap, we don't really understand the question. So they went through and tried to calculate what's the question they're really trying to ask. And lo and behold, for those of you who know the book, when they put it up, the question didn't meet the answer that they just met. Does anybody know why that is? Must be some Douglas Adams fans out there. I won't make you sit through the whole video. But essentially it comes down to this. There's really a theory that states that whenever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. Tell me that doesn't sound like our industry. Tell me that doesn't sound exactly like our industry. The moment I think I got it all figured out, it all blows up in my face and I have to start again. Oh my God. Just when I thought I had security installed, somebody used the security against me. And it's changing and it's constantly changing. And the reason I want to use this analogy is to bring up to you that there is a massive change coming, whether we like it or not. It's going to change completely how we do things, completely how we work through things. The universe as we know it is going to flip upside down and become something else. Not right away. It's going to be somewhat gradual, but it is no question it is coming, and I'm starting to see the fruition of it, something we've talked about. And where that basis comes from is really how we run data centers today and how we manage access. And how we do that today, what's the tenet of security? How do you secure your environment? The basics? Segmentation, right? We're always preaching segmentation. Define your services and functions where they belong and how they belong. And then block those things off as accordingly. And wow, isn't that amazing? Matter of fact, we could build, by the way, we know how to do this today. We can absolutely segment these things, which allows really the customers, everybody, to build, these tiered access protection. This is like the 3, level layer where there's the inbound access to a DMZ, a web front end, and then, a middleware application processing and a database, and there's all tight controls between all of them. Well, maybe not tight controls. Truth be told, when I actually go to see the customers, it looks more like this. Yeah, they talk a good talk, but in reality, they're just lumping the servers in together. There's some segmentation, but it's off of a VLAN and an ACL somewhere, and it's not something they really track, or sometimes even really care about. And while they're doing that, and while they're trying to audit and segment it, they're actually just adding more services in there anyway. But that's okay, because you know what? We put in threat prevention, so I'm sure that'll take care of the problem, even though we don't quite have the segmentation. And just to make things, extra interesting, oops, some of the DMZ applications turned up on the inside anyway, so we created punched some holes through. It's for the business, right? Got to keep it going. And of course, in most of the customers I go to see, if we're lucky, the users are connected to some kind of access control device. In a lot of cases, they're just connected directly to their data center because they're on a trusted LAN with all their trusted applications like Facebook and Twitter and all the crap that comes with it and every link they like to click on. It's like, oh my God, free iPads, click. Damn it, I need a free iPad. I better click it 3 more times. Click, click, click. Oh yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Of course, I blame VMware for this. They've made it so easy to spin up servers, people have gone like mad. So here's where the change is coming, and it's actually a very positive thing. Everybody hear the term SDN? Software-defined networking? It's the new hot, I used to think it was just, oh God, not another acronym, some bullshit we can sell, blah, oh look at it, we call it SDN now. It turns out it is actually a real thing. And by the way, what you're seeing here is I listed some known products that do this. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There is a ton of them. And what it really comes down to is not just virtualizing the servers, but virtualizing the entire infrastructure around and make it a programmable infrastructure. And you do that based on really a cloud management controller component that can actually auto-launch things through a hypervisor. And it does that through very simple, JSON templates. Just very simple controller. And all it is objects and actions, right? Put, get, destroy, delete, server, database, whatever it is. And it could send that information into a hypervisor and say, spin me up this. Oof, up comes the server. Now that exists today, and a lot of people are doing that, and they're loving that. But then they're sitting there waiting for the network team and the security team to come along and actually bring them online. In this new and interesting world, there's now a network level controller that's also receiving information, the same information that's automated from this controller, that same data, and says, oh, you need a network? Okay, here's your network connectivity. And then you take it a step further and go, oh, you need some security with that? Yeah, no problem. We're going to tell them, hey, this is the server that's coming online. Hey, this is the network that's being attached to it. Please provide some security for us. And what happens is all our security and our functions become APIs in the network. The security is just an API. The network is really just an API. The service itself, just an API. So it says, hey, I want to put a new DMZ web server online to offer this services. The network goes, okay, great, you need access to this network, and we're going to connect you here. And we're going to call security, and because you're going online, we're going to put you with threat prevention. Oh, and you better put some data loss prevention on here because you're accessing some sensitive data that we don't want to go through. Done. Boom. Online and running. And of course, with that, we could scale up to dozens and hundreds and massive servers. And not only are the systems talking, for example, to your security services, hey, we just put something online, but we have the ability to talk back and go, hey, one of your machines is acting funny. Boom, and it destroys it, replaces it with something else, just on the fly, automatic provisioning. Sounds amazing, right? It's actually starting to happen now. But what I'm terrified of, absolutely terrified of, is we're going to do the same stupid thing we've ever did. We have this awesome automated system, which means I can literally build a zero trust model. No packet passes unless I say so. This is the CISO of my house, by the way, Security Cat. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see Security Cat's constantly protecting my network, preventing me from accessing my machine when it's, time to feed her. But the point is, we could build what we describe as a zero trust network. And the network is actually irrelevant. I've seen it myself. We build an entire farm of servers, all sitting on the same layer 2 LAN together. And none of them can talk to each other unless we're approved by policy. All dynamic, all on the fly. The network is really just a transport, and I have the ability. So we have this ability to do this amazing, amazing thing. But what I'm terrified, of course, is that we're just going to do the same stupid thing because it's easier and go, well, just let the traffic pass anywhere. And you know what's going to happen then? Well, then you're not going to have 1,000 servers that are badly segmented and untracked. You're going to have 1 million servers unsegmented and tracked. And this problem is going to escalate on us in a huge way. So I'm starting to spread the message now that, yes, absolutely, SDN's coming. And security needs to be part of it. And by the way, security is just a small piece of it. There's orchestration and storage and all kinds of other amazing services that come with it. They're all dynamic, all extremely powerful. These are the things that we need to be leveraging as APIs, as services, to do the job right, to fix all those problems we had in the past. I've given up now trying to tell customers that their old infrastructure should be segmented. They just look at me and go, yeah, right. The business will shoot me before they let me touch it. But moving forward, we have an opportunity to do it better. We have an opportunity to be strong at this. And by the way, I don't mean to just hammer on ESX. There's KVM, Hyper-V. By the way, the same thing applies for AWS and public cloud services. They're all just compute that we can call on the fly, SDN style, and just have them magically spun up and working. And by the way, there's something recently that I've found, I've been actually very excited about, and that's Docker containers. Please run, don't walk to the Docker training session if you don't know what this is. This technology boggles my mind, and I'll tell you why. In 2008, I did a presentation called Virtually Safe. I did it at a bunch of VMware sites, and in it, I basically said, you know, I don't think server virtualization went far enough. I think it's cute that I can virtualize a server, but I'm still patching the stupid thing. I'm looking at it, looking after it like it's a physical server. I still have the same workload. I'm not really all that impressed with it. Then the Dockers come along. You know, if you haven't seen Dockers, they're amazing. They're these instances of a simple program or service that just launches, can receive requests. You can turn it on and off like a switch. You can diff the file systems in real time, so if something's been hammered or hacked or something weird happened to it, I can actually diff it from the main image. You go, what changed? Right away, and blow it away. We saw a conceptual rollout, this is interesting, where a service would come inbound and the SDN controller would call a Docker instance to service that request. And once that request, you know, boom, reply, data back, poof, it would blow up that instance, make it disappear in a second. And then the next service request that comes in, boom, an image would pop up and respond to it. Now think about that. What if I come in and I use that initial service request to pop that web server? The next time I try to connect back in to take advantage of that, what happened? Oh, it's back to the old image. You can spend all day hacking away at that thing and you're going to get the old image back. Not only that, when it happens and I notice there's a difference in the image from what running versus what I put up there, I can run a quick diff, extract the difference, send it through some kind of threat intelligence processing, and then push that protection to the front layer so I'll, boom, in real time I actually stop the protection. Isn't that amazing? We are really coming a long way, and that whole universe that we knew is going to get flipped on its butt, provided we do it right. So there's a whole other session. As a matter of fact, I could come back and do a whole session just on the SDN technologies and the pieces that are going into that. Although it's something I'm toying with, if you care to have me back, I thought I might do a session on really relationship advice, because I find engineers have a challenge. You know, the challenge of men are UDP, women are TCP, the challenge of stateless to stateful connections. Very, very tough thing. I can also do the, you know, SSL versus IPsec, i.e. the one-night stand versus the long-time relationship. I'm kidding. I'm not really going to do that. Actually, I'd rather come back and talk about SDN if you have me. But having said all that, I hope you had a little bit of fun with that. I hope I've given you a little bit of food for thought. Start taking a look around at some of these new technologies, these network controllers. OpenStack is out there. You can download and play with it. You don't have to have the big expensive tools out there. There's white box switches. Who's here heard of white box switching? You guys know about that? A few of you. The rest of you, imagine this. You're a business. You order a big data center switch. It shows up, and it has no software in it. Nothing. You load your own software, and off you go. Our carriers are running pretty frantically, actually, to roll this stuff out. They love it. It's dirt cheap, and it allows full control of the servers. The industry, as we know it, is flipping over. The whole proprietary, I got to have this, I got to have that, is going away. And if you don't believe this industry is changing, I'll give you the perfect example why it's changing. Remember how I mentioned I'm making fun of my competitor Cisco? In the last 6 months, I've been doing meetings and architecture designs and connecting with customers with my new partner, Cisco. We're working together diligently to make sure our systems are all coming up together, that our APIs are all happy together. If that isn't a sign, things have changed. When competitors are sitting down together, okay, how do we make this work together? I don't know what is. So look forward to some big changes. Look forward to some, upheaval in the industry. There will be people that fight this and say, there's no way, I like it the way I'm doing, to which I have to inform them that you are the horse and buggy on the freeway going, what's with all these cars? Get out of my way. You don't want to be that person. It's time to get in the car. It's time to look forward. It's time to make things better. So with that, I would like to thank you all very much for having me here, especially the GrrCON group. It's always fun to see you guys. I have a blast. And hopefully, get some drinks in you. Don't go too crazy. And please, if you haven't, take a close read of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It is more applicable to security than you realize. But with that, have yourself a great day. I look forward to talking to you and hopefully see you next year. Take care. Thank you.